Hey guys, this is Chris of Wilson Life Sculpture, and in this video I want to talk about the difference between wood carving and wood sculpting. Now obviously I've shown lots of different carving processes, both the hand and power tools, and I started carving when I was 10 years old. In fact, my latest piece here just won second best of show at the largest wood carving show in America, the Charlotte Woodcarving Showcase of Wood Carvings, a couple months ago in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I was honored to win second best of show again. I didn't win first best of show, but last year I also got second best of show. But my background is not just in carving, but is in sculpting. When I say carving, I've carved stone, I've carved wood, I've carved other materials, foam, I've done large monuments, very tiny miniatures. I've done all kinds of sculpting, and that's what I went to study school for. I have a master's degree in sculpture as well as an undergraduate degree in studio arts, and I taught sculpture for 7 years at Kennesaw State University. In this video, I'm going to show you some more examples of wood sculptures behind me and talk about the different processes involved in art, specifically in sculpture. You have 4 processes of sculpting, and the main method I love is subtractive method. And subtractive is carving from a block of material, one piece of material. It can be wood, it can be stone, and therefore the technique is carving or wood carving. So wood carving is a technique, it's also a genre. I also work in the genre of wildlife art and bird sculpture, across different styles, realism, impressionism, hyperrealism, even abstract art and sculpting, such as my pieces behind me, which are interpretive. And I'm going to demonstrate, or at least show you how they go together. I don't have that quite figured out, but maybe you can watch the end of this video and I'll explain and show you some of those different processes. So that process is actually additive. So whenever I carve subtractively on one piece of material, I usually do some type of additive method of assembling. Okay, assemblage is it's a different kind of thing using found objects. You see a lot of welded sculptures or assemblage, but wood carving can be sculpting if you use other processes such as additive, joining different materials. You can also do another process called manipulation. That's the third process of, additive is the second process, subtractive is number 1. And additive is meaning you build up, okay? You build up to get I added these flowers, I added 2 barn swallows, I carved each bird, the nest, the base, okay, representing their habitat and the birds. I'll show you some details of these pieces at the end of the video, if you stick with me. So those are additive techniques. I used a torch and silver soldered the habitat, okay? These yellow jasmine vine, each flower is carved in wood and silver soldered in metal. So that's a whole different technique of wood carving in general. Even though it won at a wood carving show, this is also a wood sculpture or a mixed media sculpture because I have metal, I have wood, I use acrylic, and I use oil. And I actually have other materials in this nest besides wood. I have a metal armature, I have wood shavings, such as aspen shavings to create the nest. I have metal rods, metal reinforcing the birds. The feet are made of metal. The eyes are glass. I made my own moss out of wood shavings. And the piece hangs on a wall. It's freestanding. It won as a freestanding piece though. It's a frontal work. Okay, that's not a process, but it's just a type of presentation. But I was getting at additive and substitution. The third process is manipulation. Now that is usually using clay in sculpting. A lot of artists use acrylic polymers now or clay and make molds of their work. But there is manipulation here in how I manipulate epoxy putty to form the eyelids, to form over the wire feet. I build up using a plumber's epoxy, a 2-part epoxy, and those are all manipulative techniques. In other words, you're modeling. The technique is modeling the materials, and just like I did the nest. I said it's additive, but I also manipulated the materials. So that is another process of sculpting. And the final process is substitution. Okay, the technique is casting. So I've done a number of casting pieces in limited edition bronzes. I've cast in iron, aluminum, bronze, and also been castings and plaster. So basically, you take a mold over something. Okay, you can use silicone. That's the best method. There are other ways to make molds out of plaster or urethane. What's the other? There's just different materials, and basically you can create a piece again and again by creating a negative through the lost wax casting process. And it's quite complex, and I've done that process. I learned that in grad school. In fact, I studied with the late Carl McCluskey, who made giant wildlife sculptures for zoos, cast in bronze. I did a sculpture with him of herons, and in fact, I have herons behind me, which are very interpretive. But I don't have any casting really to show you, because this is all hand carved and handmade. Casting, again, it can be original, but you're making again and again. Or you could do just a series of one, and I've done that before too. So there's the process of sculpting. And sculpting also comes with different techniques and concepts. And that pushes it to the art world, versus wood carving and carving can be considered just craft. However, all art has craft, okay? And there used to be, people would consider what's high art and what's low art. And I don't make those type of decisions. And I don't think that, that still exists, and there are certain gatekeepers in the art world that like to do that. And they like to say, oh, it's not stone, it's wood, or something like that, or not bronze. People have different opinions on what's art, or what's craft, or what's fine art. And I tell you, there's not the clear boundaries. All you have to do is look in museums these days and galleries. Matter of fact, the art world is full of installation art. And I'm actually known for installation art, and that pushes the concept beyond wood carving to concepts of sculpting and sculpture. And that's what I'm doing with the piece behind me, which I'm going to show next. In fact, let me go ahead and show you that now. I'll show you a couple of close-ups of these pieces. I have to get closer with the camera to show the close-ups of the barn swallows, which one are at best of show. You can see the nest, how I made the nest, and I have metal holding it up. It's all concave and convex. The only thing I didn't add is eggs down there. Now the barn swallows make their nest out of mud, and I didn't want to do that. But I did use wood. I did use a clay, and I did use wood shavings. I used even lint from my hair dryer down there. It's a little dark, you can't see. Yellow jasmine flowers are each carved from one piece, as are the birds. No inserts. I don't insert my feathers. This is all one-piece carving. And the leaves in the vine are fabricated metal. That helps to create a compositional flow around the piece. Let me put this down a second, because holding it gets a little bit heavy after a while. Just show you from afar. So it's a frontal piece, and again, it has many different processes of sculpting, has everything but substitution. I didn't cast anything in this piece. Okay, so this is wood carving, and it's also sculpture. It's both. That's why I'll call my page and my work Wilson Wildlife Sculpture. That's my last name, and I'm Chris Wilson. Let me show you some other work now. You can see I've carved a very traditional art form in sculpting, and actually in wood carving, is creating walking sticks and canes. I have a very interpretive wood stick here, and this is called a what's it called? A root head. This is a root of a red cedar tree, and I saw a great blue heron head in the root head. Okay, that's why they call it root heads. You look for roots or branches that are interestingly shaped, and you can carve out of it. And I saw a heron head in this really cool twisty piece. Now I did join the piece down here. I've got to pull more oil on it to disguise my joint. I used a wood shavings with wood glue, and the piece is quite high. In fact, it's close to 6 feet tall. Well, it's at least as tall as me. I'm not quite 6 feet tall. And I think it has interesting movement. And I left it kind of interpretive, but I carved details in the eyes. I left some of the wood weathering. So this is in between. There's no other processes really. It's subtractive. No, actually it is additive because I did add the piece. It's not one piece. But I'm pushing some concepts with this work, with the relationship between parent and child. It's also a narrative. My ancestor, William Bartram, was the first to describe the great blue heron in North America. He was the first artist and naturalist in the 1800s. And during the 1770s, during the American Revolutionary times, he explored the Southeast and documented a lot of wildlife and was the first to describe the great blue heron, as well as to illustrate a lot of species. He just didn't get a lot of credit for doing so because that wasn't his real purpose. So let me show you the whole piece here, if I can. It's quite large, because this is what installation art's about. Installation art is where you create an environment with a piece. The environment in this case is going to be, I got to move my chair, just my foyer because I'm working by my front door, blocking out some light there. And let me show you how these pieces go together here. I'm going to have to back way up here. Let's see. Gosh, I got to back way up so you can see everything. These are both carved out of red cedar, and it is a narrative piece, and I'm going to assemble these installations. So I put the one on the left on a turntable. So I'm going to turn around for you, and I'm going to bring the other piece to it. Okay, so let me talk about this a little bit here. There's the, this is the first piece. So I'm going to attach the piece. I'm not going to just prop it up because I'm worried of it falling. And I actually have another video where one of my pieces fell and did damage. And then it's, so I'm not going to just prop it up there, but I'm going to talk about the piece here a little bit. I have a lot of textures here done with hand and power tools in the red cedar. The very interpretive piece, but the bill is pretty accurate. It looks like a heron from the side, but the body is very interpretive. It almost looks like it has wings. Okay, and I decided to leave another branch right on this log so I can connect it to another piece, connecting that relationship between the parent, the mother, and the child. Okay, right now this is the late spring, and a lot of herons are, the childs are as big as the parents, and they are expecting food in the nest. I've been going to rookeries. In fact, I just finished an artist in residence seeing tons of herons, and the herons are wanting food. but a lot of them are high up in trees, and they've got to learn how to fly before they leave the nest. So this one's wanting food. I didn't have enough material to do an open bill. And this other one, this walking stick, is going to be kind of a parent. That's going to be the relationship established between them when I connect the two together. So that's the purpose of this video, is to try to make it an installation. Okay, I've got to probably put a screw in there. First, I'll chalk it out, and I will try to get it to hold. So I have, let me talk a little more about the installation art and sculpting. And so postmodern art, or modern art, is more about the material and the finish and, you know, the concept, and based on abstraction, a lot of different movements. And postmodern art is more about the process of the materials and leaving tool marks and leaving roughness, not everything polished. Okay, and showing process like I have here. I have my tool marks. Actually, I have tool marks, and I have the blocks of wood that I've carved from the piece, which I've attached. Well, not the two in the front, I just placed them there. But that helps show the process. It helps also show that it is kind of resembling a nest, but not really. I didn't want to make a big obvious nest, although that would be an idea for installations, to make a huge nest. Let me show you the other side of it so you can see the details of it here. So there's a lot of wood carving techniques on this piece, a lot of texture, okay, and I finished some grain. You know, I've got to add oil in some areas. I did wax it. I have other videos where I show my tools. Again, just having a temporary tool, a turntable there. I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to try to assemble these pieces here. So yeah, let me go ahead and back out so you can watch that. That's basically the difference between wood carving and wood sculpting. There's just a little more to it than wood sculpting. There's just more techniques, more other processes involved, and more concepts involved. But you know, wood carving is fun, and just have fun with whichever you want to do. But try to push the boundaries with your work if you want to, and do what I do and show your work as fine art. So let me show you how I'm going to put these together here. Okay, so I just chalked where they go together. I like to use white chalk or whatever color contrasts with the material I'm working with. That way I know where to put things, and I can easily erase it afterwards. I use different kind of chalk. I use crayons, I use pencil, whatever. I always try to get at least a couple drills ready. I just have this batter upper tool here, and I'm gonna drill a pilot hole in here. dullest tool bit in the world, but fortunately I've got some other drill bits here. Much better. Now I don't want to go through. I could add a piece of tape there so I establish the thickness of the material so I don't go through when I'm drilling it. However, I'm just winging it and I see the material is not that thick, but I think it's good enough. Now I'm just using a piece of steel here. And I'm going to cut the steel using these pliers, heavy duty. And I'm going to take that mark and I'm going to look at it and see the angle, how I'm coming there. Looks like I'm going to have to do this left-handed here. I'm really close. In fact, that's going to hold it. I think it will. Let me back up and look at it because you want to look at it from a distance too to see the angle and everything. And let's see if you can see everything here. No, you can't see the top of the bird. There you go. Okay, that's the kind of connection I want between the parent and the child. And I'm going to glue it. I'm going to drill a little bit closer there. You can watch me. I'll give you a close-up here of how I do this. So basically, yeah, there's just a metal rod, and there's my chalk line. And I drew it there as well as I drew it here, and I did a little bit of an angle. Sometimes you have to draw the chalk line two different ways, so you don't get the angle right. But I want to get the bird looking this one, looking at this one. And that's very important, so I get them looking good from different angles here. And I think that's pretty good interaction. So let me go ahead and drill this one in place a little bit more. Again, I could screw it together, but I want to make it temporary so that I can glue it together for installation and have it come apart. That'll hide the metal rod. Okay, that's it. I got it together. That holds it in place. I feel very confident in this. I would add a little glue, probably a lot of glue, like 5-minute epoxy at a show. And you can heat that epoxy up with a heat gun or even a hair dryer, which makes it soft enough I could pry that out. But you can't tell that that's connected. And I don't have a screw in this side, so it's gonna look very, very natural. And that's how I installed those pieces there, although I gotta add a little paint over the pins. So that's just called pinning it in. So that was an additive process to the otherwise subtractive sculpting. Okay, so an installation, I could give it more context if I make a nest and make it more natural to bring it to the natural world. However, I think I want to leave it a little more anthropomorphic so people can see the connection to just these are symbols, and it's not literal representation of a young heron with a parent child. This is representing humans and life. This is just an allegory for the relationship between parent and child and humans. So that's one of my concepts. It's also personal, and it's a narrative. I hope you enjoyed this process in this video, and you learned something about wood sculpting and wood carving. I show lots of different techniques, but I hardly talk about any concepts in my work. And that's all I studied in grad school. My undergraduate degree was very, very modern, studying modern art and very traditional arts. Abstract and traditional realism, study the Renaissance masterworks. But when I got to graduate school, it was more about the idea and less about materials or craftsmanship or techniques. Although my work was still very much craft-centered and talking about materials and techniques and having good craftsmanship. Because the three necessary ingredients to successful sculpture are craftsmanship, concept, and form. So we just talked about concept and in craftsmanship. Craftsmanship, the good carving lines, the smoothness of the wood, just the appearance. Craftsmanship is the use of the materials and techniques involved. And the concepts are, the ideas. And finally, the form is the elements and principles of art and design. That's the line, the elements are the line, the shape, form as an element itself, the space between these pieces, okay, the negative space, the positive space, the texture, the light value, lots of different color of elements, and finally the processes are, the principles of composition tell the elements what to do. That is, relationship between the elements, the space, the repetition, the rhythm, the compositional movement, the emphasis, the dominance, the focal points. There's so many principles here. It's been a while since I've taught wood sculpting here in three-dimensional design, but I hope you learned something here. Again, I'm Chris at Wilson Live Sculpture. Drop me a note on the video, and thanks a lot for subscribing to my channel. Hope you have a great day.